Open world cities are interesting. You get to see NPCs live their daily lives while also serving as an open playground for you to mess around with, either by playing the story of the games or simply by indulging in pure chaos just for the fun of it. WatchDogs was Ubisoft's attempt to turn each and every one of these NPCs into their own little individuals, right as you stalk their private lives, either to secretly rob them of their bank accounts or to see if anyone is up to no good. Because WatchDogs is a crime-fighting open-world game where the biggest theme is hacking. But of course, this is a Ubisoft game that came around the time people started realizing how samey their open world formula was becoming. But that'd be a little too reductive for this game, so we should take a deeper look at how much it succeeds or fails at bringing something new to the table. In Watch Dogs, we play as Aiden Pierce, a criminal that used to do digital heists for a living along with his partner. One day, one of these heists went wrong and he stumbled upon something he shouldn't have stumbled upon, leading up to a hired gun trying to kill him, only for his little niece to die instead. In other words, this is yet another Ubisoft revenge story. But I will give them credit where it is due, because what begins as a typical edgy revenge story eventually becomes into this very entertaining mystery and crime drama, uncovering the nasty criminal underworld of fictional Chicago and how Aiden's quest of revenge keeps affecting him and those around him. But is this story well complemented by good gameplay? Sorta yes and sorta no. This game can be summarized as a proof of concept. There is a lot of good ideas going on, but not all of them are used to their full potential. But it is far from terrible, really. At least not now that it's been 6 years later and patches and mods managed to polish this game out a lot better. First, let's start with the good. Again, hacking is the main gimmick here. The open world is filled with a small variety of hackables you can use for your own convenience. It is pretty limited, to be honest, but when it is used at its full potential, it allows you for some pretty fun and ingenious gameplay. Yes, it's all about looking at the hackable and pressing the action button, but I feel that's more than enough in this case. It's not about how simple or complicated your mechanics are, but rather how you use said mechanics during general gameplay. Speaking of which, being a Ubisoft game, one of those general gameplay mechanics is stealth, and this is one of those games where the stealth is quite nice and also encouraged, because the combat is, well, rather clumsy. Like with most shooters, the controller is weird to aim with for me, and switching to the mouse is no better due to mouse acceleration, so the best bet is to just play stealthy, which thankfully is really fun to do. When the stealth is at its best, you can infiltrate an entire area remotely without even having to get inside yourself or raise any alarms, let alone kill anybody. This is one of those few games where ghosting can be a literal thing, and the enemy guards end up being none the wiser about your antics. For more direct situations, you can strategize with the hackables in your area to eliminate all hostiles, without them ever realizing you are there to begin with. But of course, it's not always like this. Some areas will have less hackables than others, and some enemies might not patrol around said hackables at all, leaving you to use your other gadgets or just silently taking them down yourself with whatever you may have at hand. I do enjoy this a lot because while yes, a lot of the stuff here is either basic or limited, it does leave you open to get creative in how you deal with your enemies. Or if worse comes to worse, you can just shoot people in the face. But not always. As mentioned earlier, unlike your usual GTA style of games, you actually fight crime here. Not just in the plot, but also in the open world. And here they introduce a system I haven't seen since Red Dead Redemption. The game has a reputation system. Fighting crime successfully and making sure the criminals don't get away with what they're doing will earn you vigilante points. But killing innocent people or even law enforcement will make you lose them. What I like about this system is how it actually has an impact on how often civilians can call the cops on you. The more positive your reputation, the more they will love you and give you a pass on your own crimes since you're actually protecting them with your vigilantism. With even small tidbits of how well you are doing shown on the news and even in parts of the plot. And you will want that reputation. Since they went with a GTA style for this open world, you will inevitably face law enforcement, but with a catch. Before getting chased by the cops, you will have an evasion phase. Search zones will spawn on your area, and if you stay in one for too long, the cops will immediately home in on your location. But if you manage to evade them or you outrun them, then a timer will go down before they finally give up searching on you. This makes things tense, and I both love and hate it because the police in this game is very relentless. Getting chased by cops is unfortunately one of my least favorite things to do, not only because the game strongly advises against fighting them, but also because the driving in this game is clumsy to say the least. It took me a while to get used to it, but in the early hours I was easily crashing into everything. Cars rev up the second you touch the accelerator, and the steering can be stiff at times, making even the longer turns very clunky and awkward. Thankfully, this wasn't bad enough to detract from the experience. What can have a negative effect, however, is the side content. This game is a huge victim of its time, and the side content is a sad testament to it. Don't get me wrong, I had fun with the side activities in this game, but you do so many repeats and variations of them that said repetition becomes a lot more noticeable. Fixer contracts, for instance, require you to either take down a gang hideout, do a race against time, or attack a criminal convoy. By themselves they are fine, they are like nice little challenges for you to apply into your gameplay when you're not doing story missions, and at the very least Aiden gives a small narration on why are you doing these contracts to give them flavor and context. It's nice for role-playing, but again, the tedium can set in if you decide to do them all because of how repetitive they can be. But not all of the side activities are bad. As mentioned earlier, it's clear they were experimenting to see what works and what doesn't. Among those experiments, they included the digital trips, little arcade minigames that showed you a more surreal approach to the gameplay, while also giving you insight into Aiden's mind. You can go on a rampage, piloting a mechanical spider tank, wreaking havoc to your targets and anyone who gets in your way. You can drive an apocalyptic car, slaughtering damned souls in a hellish version of Chicago. You can infiltrate the supernatural darkness, avoiding evil androids and bringing back the light with heavily guarded generators. You can hunt for alien invaders, passing off as humans and prevent them from taking over. Or you can just jump around in the flowers. These trips are fun, and they even carry unlockables for you. They're entire adventures of their own, but some are better than the others. In some cases you can just enjoy the gameplay challenge and even do all of your objectives to your heart's content, but in others the experience gets ruined as you need to complete an overly long number of arbitrary challenges, with the game's clumsy driving and, in the case of the flowers, some very bad controls. But they are still fun nonetheless. By the end of the day, the bread and butter of this game for me are the main story missions. The best part of any Ubisoft game will always be the main story, as the set pieces and the story in them are varied enough that I'll keep the game going, sometimes even more than even all the filler copy-pasted content their open worlds get. It helps a lot that the story around this game is legitimately entertaining. I know some people were not fans of Aiden, but for me he wasn't much of an issue, because his brooding, edgy personality gets complemented a lot by how other characters interact with him.
My niece died because you went too far.
Oh, you're adorable. Blaming your family problems on me? Damien crossed the line, he made the Batman angry. What about me?
Leading to a nice variety of serious...
Why do you want his family? The fuck is wrong with you?
And funny moments.
Sure. So about this problem. Well, that's why I brought the bolt cutters. He opens the door this much, there's a chain right there, I slip him in and snip, and guess what? It's not the pizza guy.
Jordy, the problem, let's deal with it.
It helps a lot that the majority of the characters in this game just straight up ooze personality.
Are you friends? Girl?
No, sir. I was in a hurry.
Overall, Watch Dogs is a good game, but one that was sadly sabotaged by both its C3 vertical slice and the hype surrounding a console generation that turned out to be not as much of a big jump as the previous generation did. It has flaws, and while it may sound like I complained a lot during this review, I am still satisfied with the experience this game provided. This is why I am giving Watch Dogs a very decent 7 out of 10. I would have scored it higher, but I played it on the PC, meaning I had to install mods and modify the configuration files in order to get the game running decently, because the vanilla version of this PC port is just an unoptimized disaster. Thankfully, the mods did bring it closer to its E3 looks, and the smoother gameplay gave me a far more enjoyable experience. I'm rather relieved this game managed to do well enough to warrant 2 sequels, because I really want to see just how well this concept gets improved upon, and see if it can get out of its poor man GTA status and bring us something truly unique.